Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time has come to recap the second round of the NBA playoffs. We got a lot to talk about this time around, and I'll also be making my predictions for the next round, which starts tomorrow at the time of upload. So, like always, we're going to start on the left-hand side and then move right, west to east, starting with the Thunder and Nuggets matchup. And this is about the time in the playoffs where injury luck can really start to play a huge role in who does and doesn't make it to the finals. And, you hate to see a guy like Aaron Gordon not be able to contribute to the best of his ability, but I was really impressed to see him out there in Game 7, despite having a grade 2 hamstring strain. And I was most surprised to see him out there and being as aggressive as he was on the offensive glass. So, for a good chunk of that first half, it was a close game, and I think Denver definitely had ways to win this one, but somewhere towards the end of the second quarter, the Thunder started pulling away, and the Nuggets just never had the gas to bite into that lead. So the Nuggets are now out, and I'm curious what they're going to be able to do this offseason to bring a competitive roster together and compete for a second title for Nikola Jokic. And this is just the NBA that we live in now. This is a new era. I don't know what we're going to call it, but with the second apron being what it is, we're not going to see teams constructed the way they used to be. So Colin Cowherd made a point on his show the other day that it's going to be really important to start paying attention to who these front offices are and who these GMs are and how they're building these teams, because this just isn't an era anymore where you can put a bunch of superstars together to go win a ring. So could this be, the last we see of Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets? I don't know. I don't really know what kind of assets they would be able to get, because the pieces they have, is someone going to trade for Jamal Murray? I don't think so. Not on that contract. Michael Porter Jr. is another guy that I feel like you could probably be fine moving off of if he wasn't on such a ridiculous contract like he is. There's a lot of question marks in Denver, I think. And then you look at a team like the Thunder, who have all these draft picks and all these young players, and they're maybe a year out from having to make some really tough decisions. So I don't think a lot of people that I've seen in NBA spheres are talking about how the Thunder are set for the next dynasty. And me personally, I think dynasties are completely dead. I don't think we're ever going to see a dynasty again like the Warriors or the Bulls. Just the way that the CBA is structured, it seems severely unlikely for me that we are ever going to see that kind of dynasty again, just because it's so hard to keep cores together now. And, I have my own gripes with second apron and how that's constructed. I don't dislike the effect it's had necessarily, where we're starting to see more parity in the league and games are more competitive in the playoffs, but it's very odd to see teams have to move their guys, right? Like the Thunder, not this coming off season, but the off season after that, the off season next year, they are going to have to make some tough decisions, right? Chet Holmgren is a free agent in 2026. Jalen Williams is a free agent in 2026. I think even Kason Wallace might be a free agent in 2026, if not this year already. So they have some choices that they're going to have to make way sooner than I think people realize. But the Thunder are probably the deepest team in this playoffs. Maybe I would argue the Pacers might be second. But the way the Thunder are constructed is very, very, very exciting because I think the Thunder are like the pinnacle of what this new era is going to look like for teams that want to compete. Um, where you're just gonna find a way to get as many draft picks as possible to get as much young, developable talent that you can, so that you can constantly move in and out of these guys, right? Where maybe they do move Jalen Williams, and then it's just the next guy up, right? They have the pieces, they have the assets, they can go get a guy if they want to. They could go and get Giannis, maybe. Um, they have so much flexibility, right? And I think that is what we're going to see going forward for the foreseeable future, where flexibility is the biggest factor in whether or not you can go and win. You can go and win a ring. So, very exciting to see what the Thunder are doing. Um, maybe this isn't. I have doubts whether this will be their year. Um, I know, like, it's a very good team, very, very good defensively. They have a lot of options. They have a lot of ways that they can beat you, but they are still very young. They have some inexperience that I think these other teams around them can sort of use against them and take advantage of. So that is the first series in the West, OKC and Denver. This second series here, the 6th seeded Timberwolves and the 7th seeded Warriors. This is another series where injuries played a big role in the eventual outcome. Steph Curry got hurt midway through the first game of the series with a hamstring strain as well. His was only a grade 1, but he was not able to come back. There was the potentiality for Steph Curry to come back in Game 6 if the series had gone that far, and who knows what would have happened then. But the Warriors just did not have the pieces that they needed to beat a team like the Timberwolves. The Warriors are also a smaller team, right? Like, if you're a smaller team, I don't think you can beat the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves just have so much length. It's a very, very big team with guys like Randall and Nas and McDaniels and Rudy Gobert. It's a very, very big team. So, there's no way to know, right, what this series would have looked like, because they just couldn't get to a 6th game, right? Like, they were understaffed, and the bench on the Warriors, I thought was better than it was, and I think I was kind of proven wrong on that. Like, there were, Jonathan Kuminga probably had the series of his life, maybe played himself into some money somewhere, and good for him. I know the Warriors have believed in him for a very long time, and, they want to see him take the next step, and maybe he has, but outside of that, when I'm watching this series, Draymond Green was a huge letdown, I think, because he just had no offensive presence. Jimmy Butler didn't look like himself, and Jimmy Butler is older now, so it's like they need to find a way to maximize these next 2 years, because Steve Kerr's on a 2-year deal, Draymond's on a 2-year deal, Butler's on a 2-year deal, Steph's on a 2-year deal, and I think that will be the end of all of their careers at the end of that 2 years. And they do have the assets to go and, get something to try and make this roster more competitive. But I think they need to just get depth. I think they need to have more options. I think they need to be more versatile to beat some of these other teams. Like, if you don't have the bench players, right, that can come in and give you, 8-10 points off the bench, you're not beating a team like the Thunder. You're not beating a team like the Wolves, right? That is something you absolutely need to have. And how the Warriors are going to go and do that, I'm not entirely sure, whether it's going to be moving Kuminga or just moving picks around, or what they're going to do in that regard, but they do have the ability to do that. They aren't quite as hamstrung as a team like the Nuggets or the Celtics are. So, again, I have said for a long time, behind the scenes, talking to my friends about basketball, that this is going to be probably the most exciting offseason we've ever seen, just because you have all these teams now, right? Like, last year, it was only really Phoenix and the Wolves, right? Because they had built their teams on the old model where, you just get a bunch of guys together and hope they're good enough. Where it was only really the Timberwolves and the Phoenix that were like super hard pressed into the second apron. And now it's like you've got all these other teams that are like right on the edge of entering the second apron or being in the second apron for a second year. And they don't want to rack up multi-year penalties for being in the second apron. So I'm very excited for this offseason, and I'll probably talk about it a lot on this channel when we get to that point. But looking at the Timberwolves, speaking of the second apron, this team is so good, but I feel like they could be way better, right? Like, sometimes when I'm watching the Timberwolves play, they do some of the stupidest shit I have ever seen in my life on a basketball court, and it somehow doesn't punish them in the way that I think it should. I think this team needs to be a lot more disciplined, and if they had that kind of discipline, like, I look at a team like Miami last year, or even the Warriors. Like, if they had that kind of discipline, I think they could be like a 70-win team. Like, this team in its current iteration, with Julius Randle having the series of his life, Jaden McDaniels taking the next step, this team in this iteration is so good, and I feel like they're very underrated for that. They're a lot like the Thunder, really, except they don't have the future assets and they're more expensive. But they're like the end point of what I think the Thunder will be in a few years. But I feel like they're just not coached well enough. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they could be a lot better. Anthony Edwards is a superstar, bona fide, no doubt about it at this point. Again, Julius Randle having the series of his life. Rudy Gobert is kind of taking a back step. Rudy Gobert still, he does all kinds of work that you don't see on a box sheet, a box score. That I think Rudy Gobert gets a bad rep because Rudy Gobert is very good. He's just not an exciting player to watch, and that's a crime in the NBA, by the way. If you're not exciting to watch, you're a bum. The Timberwolves are really, really good, and I see a lot of people, a lot of experts saying that this is a wash for the Thunder, but it's like, is it? I mean, they split the series in the regular season. I think this could easily be a series that goes to 7. I think this is going to be a very exciting series. And I think these teams are a lot closer than people think. Yes, the Thunder are the 1 seed, and they have almost 20 extra wins. But at the same time, it's like, the Timberwolves dealt with some injuries, and it took them a while to get to this point. And I think this iteration of the Timberwolves is a way different team than the Thunder saw in the regular season. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is kind of an upset, right? And maybe I'm biased because I want to feed into the narrative that the Timberwolves and the Knicks end up in the playoff or end up in the finals together, because I feel like that would just be the best option for the league. I think that would be the most marketable option. And in saying that, we can use this as proof that the NBA isn't rigged if the Timberwolves and the Knicks are both eliminated. Because if I were, a dictator as a sports commissioner, I would always be searching for the best narrative. And the best narrative to me would be Timberwolves and Knicks in the finals. So, saying all of that, I say that to say that I'm going to take the Timberwolves in 6 games over the Oklahoma City Thunder to advance to their first ever finals appearance. That is my prediction for the West. In the Eastern Conference, the Pacers remain on an absolute burner, right? The Pacers are out here absolutely blitzing everybody. And good for them. They're another team that's sort of on the young side. They've got a lot of very intriguing pieces, and I'd have to go back and check. I don't know exactly who's a free agent and what's going on there, but Tyrese Halliburton is a dog, dude. Tyrese Halliburton is incredibly good at what he does. And that's why they keep winning. Tyrese Halliburton is the glue. He's the guy that's making all of these plays and getting his guys open. And the way the Pacers play is just really, really interesting to me. And I think they're probably the most unpredictable team of the four that are here. I would not be shocked if the Pacers win it all, right? Would not be shocked, even in the slightest. The Clippers, right? Or not the Clippers, the Cavaliers, sorry. I saw the C and I just said Clippers. The Cavaliers, I'm lost for words at how they let this happen to themselves. People are going to call them frauds or whatever, but, not to discredit the Pacers, of course, because the Pacers are a very good team, but the Cavaliers, man, what are you doing? You have the defensive player of the year, and that's the best you can do? You got absolutely torched in 3 of these games. And, it wasn't even close at times, and maybe Darius Garland is on the move in the offseason. I don't know. I think there's a lot more question marks on the Cavaliers than there is on a team like the Thunder as a 1 seed. But yeah, I was honestly shocked to see the series go the way that it did. They just they didn't have an answer for the way the Pacers play, and the Pacers don't play like any of these other teams here. The Pacers are very unique, and it's because of Tyrese Halliburton, of course, that they play the way they do. So again, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Pacers make it to the finals, but this was just a bad series for the Cavs, a very bad series for the Cavs, and an incredible series for the Pacers. They played their asses off, and all the props in the world to them. They have this energy that I don't see from these other teams. The Pacers are a team to me that they hate losing, right? It just, I can see it on their faces when they play. They hate the idea of losing. So that is the first series in the East. The second series, Knicks and Celtics. Another series, kind of like these two in the West, where this came down to Jason Tatum tearing his Achilles. And you never want to see an injury, right? No matter who the player is, injuries suck. And maybe the NBA needs to look at something in how they schedule these games, because maybe every other day just is unsustainable. I think there's a lot of comments you could make there on why these injuries are happening, but who am I to say? I'm not the commissioner. The Celtics are another team like the Nuggets, where it's I think this offseason is going to be pretty big for them if they can make it work. But again, like the Nuggets, they have a lot of contracts that I'm not entirely certain how many teams are willing to go and take on, right? Last year, if they tried to get rid of Kristaps Porzingis, I think they could have got quite a decent return for him. This year, I don't know if anyone's going to take that contract. I think anybody on the Celtics not named Brown or Tatum is probably movable at this point, just because of the second apron. I don't know. The Celtics have a lot of decisions to make, because they're not going to have Jason Tatum next year. Well, for most of the year, if at all, of course. There's a chance he could come back towards the end of the season, but I don't think they're going to bother. I think they just need to jump and get ahead of a bit of a retool while they can. Maybe Peyton Pritchard becomes a starter, and it's just they have a lot of different bits and pieces they could try to move. It's just I don't know how willing other teams are going to be to take them. Even these teams around the league that are always considered the salary dump teams, right? the Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets, teams like that, where it's like they should be getting the first overall pick in the lottery, but they never do. They just get screwed every year, and they can't get talent any other way. So they have to be the facilitators in trades for these other teams that are contending. I don't know how many teams are going to want some of these guys like Jamal Murray or Kristaps Porzingis or stuff like that. I don't know how many of these teams are going to go like, yeah, we'll take this bad contract and try to compete, because it's like, what's the point, right? Like, you're not winning the lottery, you're not getting assets that you can use. It's just, I don't know. It's a very interesting what's going to happen this offseason. But yeah, the Celtics have a lot of decisions to make, and I'm excited to see what happens, but it's definitely going to be a changing of the tides for sure. The Knicks are playing very well as well. They can be kind of shaky at times. Even in this other series against the Pistons, sometimes it feels like they're just really off their game and they come out super slow, and sometimes it's baffling to see the way that they play in these playoffs. But at the same time, when they're on their game, they're absolutely lights out. Jalen Brunson is having a great playoffs. Cat is having a great playoffs. OG Anunoby is playing super, super well. Really excited to see if he can keep up what he's been doing. I have some questions about the Knicks' defensive effort at times, and I think that might come to bite them against the Pacers, because the Pacers just play so fast, right? Like, my God. And I have questions on whether the Knicks can keep up with that. But it's another one of these teams where it's like they have a lot of really good role players. They have a decent bench. I don't know if it's better than the Wolves or the Thunder. But they have a decent bench, and they have different guys that can come in and give them points and keep them in games. And it's hard for me to like, this series feels way harder for me to predict, because like the teams in the East to me have felt a lot more exciting than in the West so far this playoffs. Like the teams in the East are just, to me, of course, right? Like they feel so much different than these two guys over here in the West. And when I look at a series like this between the Pacers and the Knicks, it's like, God, this could be either, right? Like this could be either team. I feel like they both have their style of basketball, and they're both very different the way that they play. And I don't really know which one is better, right? Like, the more I look at it and the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning Pacers, right? Like, I would love to see Wolves Knicks. Obviously that's the best narrative by far, easily. But like, looking at it and thinking about it, it's like, I think the Pacers are gonna win this. Like, I mean, the Pacers are just hot at the right time. They're a really good team. The Knicks can be shaky, and something in me right now, my intuition, when I'm looking at this right now, my intuition is telling me to take the Pacers in 5. And like, I know a lot of Knicks fans are gonna, be very upset about that. But like, I can't go against my gut, man. I really can't. I'm gonna take Pacers in 5. Okay, my mind may change as we go through the next week, but I don't know. Like, it's just screaming at me to take Pacers in 5. So I'm gonna take Pacers in 5 over the Knicks. I'm gonna take Timberwolves in 6 over the Thunder, and then we'll have an NBA Finals between the Pacers and the Knicks. Not as exciting to me as Timberwolves and Knicks, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. And part of this is all vibes, right? When you make predictions, part of it is vibes. So yeah, those are my predictions for the finals. And that's all I have to say for now as we move toward round 3 starting tomorrow night. I will be sure to see you all again in about a week or so when we have our definitive NBA Finals matchup ready to go. So, as always, I thank you very much for watching. I hope to speak with you all again soon, and goodbye for now.